Hi, today I want to talk to you a little bit about reports, printout, layouts, try to explain a few things on the way. So let's say I want to do some work on a report that I have. Currently the report looks like this. I'm going to go to orders, I'm going to click print, and I get the report. And I want to, let's say I want to rewrite it or play around with it or do whatever I want. Now, before I go into that, let's just work on some things that as a developer I like to do. So the first thing I want to do is I'm lazy. I just want to run this report without going and clicking on many buttons. So I see it's order 10-249. So I can go to developer tools, controllers, select the report I want to run, and 10-249, run it, and it runs. Great. So now what I can actually do is whenever I want to run it, I can just do Shift F3, enter, 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 and I'll get the report in front of me. Which is, I just think it's easy, and it's fun that we actually remember the less parameters, so everything works great. Cool. So now we can run our report quickly. Let's examine it. We have the print order controller, okay, and we have the print order view. And the first thing I want to do is add completely new layout, just because I want to and just because I can. So I'm gonna right-click over here and say Add New Item. And I'm going to choose a report layout, okay? Print order new layout. Great. And I'm telling it to trust me because I'm trustworthy, and I get this error. Okay, and this error is actually a bug in the template that is very easy to fix, but let me show you what happens here. It actually says that this control is not designable. And if we go over to the code behind, we can see that it cannot find the class that it inherits. Okay, it goes to theme printing report layout, where it should go to shared theme printing report layout. Okay, or if I have a model, you know, a built-in, ready-made controller section, which I can make, just like my own controls, I can put it here. Now, as soon as I do that and build, the layout works. Okay, perfect. So on this layout, I want to put some text. I don't know, call it print and order. Okay, just something to have over here. And I want to add another section with order info. So I'm going to add a section, and I'm going to move it down, and I'm going to call it order title. Okay, yeah, I don't even need that. And I can copy, paste, and say here order title. And I want to go and use the order for my controller. Okay, so I'm going to go to Toolbox. I'm going to grab a text box. And we'll see that when I click data, we don't have anything. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to need my controller here to use it. So in my print new order, in the constructor, I will say, okay, give me the print order controller. I'm going to call it controller, and I'm going to define the member for it. And I'll assign it. Great. Now, as soon as I do that, if all goes well, I should have the ability to, yeah, I love bugs when they happen in real time. Let's rebuild completely. And I should get the data. For some reason I can. I'm going to try and close and reopen Visual Studio just to, in case it's some kind of weird Visual Studio glitch, which unfortunately happens every once in a while. And now I can select the data. So as you can see, Visual Studio is not perfect and it can have some problems. But let's put the order ID over here. Great. And let's move it aside a bit. And let's add another section for body. And I'm going to call it body. Yes, details. The default name is body, so I don't want to give it a name that already exists. So I'm going to call it details. I'm going to move it down. And the title is actually called body, so I'm going to call it header. Great. And on my body, I'm going to drop a grid. And I'm going to grab some data. It's going to go from order details, product ID, unit price, quantity. I don't really care. Okay, cool. So I have these three sections and I have the layout defined. Now I need to use this layout in my code. So I'm going to go to print order, and there's the layout sections over here. And I want to define my layout, and I'm going to start very basic. So I'm going to go to printing dot print order new layout, and I'll try to make a new, but I'll probably get an error because I need to send it this, and you cannot send this at this position. Okay, so I'm going to say okay, no problem, new layout, and I'm going to say here underscore new layout equals new with this, because I can only use this within a method. I cannot use it on the class level. Okay, so now I have my new layout. Okay, and I can use it. I can, for example, go to my IO. Let's add some new lines here because I don't like the single line long properties. And I'm going to say here page header equals new layout title, order title, no, header. Perfect. That's the name of the layout that I gave over here. Header. Great, let's run this. And I got the header over here. Great. And let's play around with all the other calls. Okay. So I'm going to go to whatever I've written layout header on the change of an order ID. So instead of that, I'm going to say new layout dot order title dot write to IO print orders. Great. And I'm going to do the leave. Let's leave the original leave just because it's already there. And over here, I'm going to write the lines. Layout detail write to, new layout details write to IO printer orders. Great. So now that I run the report, I have my new report. Great. Report title, order title, and the data. So that's easy. That's how we've added a report to our code. Now let's explain a little bit about what goes on over here. Okay. You can see that in the migrated code, we don't use these two lines. Okay. We actually reduce it into this one line. Okay. And this one line has a few benefits for it. Okay. First of all, it's not two lines, which is fun already. But this strategy actually has the disadvantage that we're also creating the layout even if it's not already used. So for example, imagine reports that have 5 different variations. Okay, and here if you do new to all of them, we're actually creating all the variations in memory, and it can slow you down a little bit. By using cached over here, we're actually telling it, hey, just create it when I first call it. When the first reference to layout, only then create the instance. So that improves performance for us, and that's quite nice. It's actually even easier on the eyes. Also, we need to note that cached by default sends this as a parameter. So if the controller receives this, we can send it as a parameter. But let's say that we want to implement this ourselves without using cached. So I'm going to define another member called underscore new layout, so nobody would access it. And here I will say, well, if I want to get new layout, here is the implementation. I'll say, okay, return layout. But if layout is null, then return layout equals new with this. And yeah, and it's not layout, actually new layout. That's what we wanted to do here. And it's going to be the right new. Okay, so if you look at this code, I don't need this anymore. I do have 2 lines, not 0 lines, but here I have full control over the way it is created. And what I'm doing here, I'm checking if it already exists, I'll return it. If it's null, then I'll create a new instance and set it. And this will only happen if I call the new layout somewhere in my code. So if that is implemented. Okay. And my code, new layout, should also, yeah, I made it as a lambda. I don't want to make it as a lambda. So let's do it like this. Get. Yeah, this is where I fall for stupid syntax. This is like the long way of writing it. I think this is the long way. Return. And there's gotta be a shorter way for this, so let's just try. As you can see, I'm experimenting. Get. Would that work? No. Yeah, there is a short syntax, I just can't seem to remember it right now and I won't waste your time searching for it. There is a lambda syntax of doing just get in a single line. Wow, it drives me crazy now. Would this work? No. Then I don't remember, but there is one. Okay, never mind. Trust me that there is. Anyhow, this is a very short version of this. Okay, so feel welcome to use this whenever you need to, but know that you have this option if you want to make things more complicated or more interesting. Okay, so cool. We have this report running and we can use things and we can, yeah, it's not the report we wanted. And we can print it and we get the report. Great. But sometimes we want to have, let's say we have a report header and we have a standard organizational header for our report and we just want to use that. So we can completely do that, and let me show you how we do that. Let's go ahead and create a new report header. So I'm going to say printing, add new, going to create another layout, report layout, standard page header. I'm gonna trust it, gonna fix the stupid error with the that there is in the template, and we're gonna fix it later where we say here is shared. And we can open it. Great, and we have the column wizard. It's gonna give me, yeah, perfect. So here we have the header, and we can start doing things like putting a label over here and saying my reusable report header. Okay, so I've defined it here, and let's go back to our report. And on the page header, instead of using the one for my layout, I can simply say new standard page headers, new printing standard page header dot, by default I think it's called body, but we can rename it later if you want. Perfect. So I'm taking the body. Why is it called body? Because by default when we create a report, a layout, the first section is called body, just because that's the default I gave it. We can change that. And we set body over here. If I changed it into page header, you will see that it also changed it here to page header. Okay, great. Let's run this. And we're gonna go and run our report. And now it uses our new reusable report header, which is kind of fun. But we want to set a title for the report, and that's something that we want to bring in as a parameter. Now, if we'll attach it to a controller, then it only worked for a specific controller, and that's not what we want. You can say here, add controller, whatever, and answer controller, but then it will be bound to that specific controller, and we don't want to do that. But instead, we can just simply say here string the title. Okay, and then I can simply grab this text box, label 1, and set its title according to the titles that we receive in the constructor. Okay, so I'm going to say here the title, and text box 1 or label 1, text equals the title. Now, as soon as I do that, in my print orders, I need to send it, this is the order report with the parameter title. Okay. And run it. And now, if we go there, we see that it got the title from our code, which I think is kind of fun, kind of cool. The next thing I want to show is that of every header I needed to have a page. Okay, and to get the page, the original report what did they do to get the page? They've created exp whatever, exp1. So let's go to the report and check out exp1. And exp1 goes to the printer and gets back the page. So we can do that. Okay. Let's say that our report page header also receives the printer. Okay, so we're gonna do here printer yeah, what type it is? Printing printer writer printer. Okay, and let's save it as a member here, just so we'll have it. And let's add a page member to the UI. So I'm going to go here. No, here. Let's close the other so I won't get confused. I'm going to go here. I'm going to add a label. I'm going to say page. And I'll duplicate that and put over here. Another label is going to be like, I don't know, page 15. Of course, we look at the name. The name is label 3. And we'll use that to change it. Or actually, let's give it even a name here. So it won't be label 3, page number label. Okay, and then it will be called like that. And now, if I double click on this form, we can actually handle its print event. So whenever it's about to print, we can do something. Whenever that section is printed. And here I can say, hey, no problem. So label text is equal to printer.page.toString. And of course, we'll set the printer over here. Yay! ToString. So now, in our report, we'll need to also send it the IO. So to do that, we're going to go here, IO print orders, dot page header equals new, and we're just going to take this over here. We cannot write it in the same line because we need to send it the IO, which is only defined afterward. So we're going to do it like this. And great. So now if we run our report, okay, and we'll go and run our report. We'll see the header and we'll see the page, and we can start replacing it everywhere. So I can go now and say that I want my order report that prints many pages to also use that header. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to print orders, and in the page header, I'm going to do the same thing that I've done before. I'm going to delete the page header that was defined here, and I'm going to say IO print order equals new printing standard page header that will get the IO print order, and we'll get a print or all orders as a title. Okay, and of course I'm going to send it the header. Great. So now if you run the code, our program will have our long header, and the second report will also be reusing that header, which is kind of cool because then we can start defining a header and a footer and use that everywhere. Let's talk a little bit more about page. So what previously I've done here with page is that I've set it like this in an event of printing. But I can do it also another way that is more resembling the migrated code. I can say here get page and return a printer.page. Okay? But instead of putting this function like you're used to in the controller, I can actually put it in the layout, and then I can bind to it. So in my standard page header, I'm gonna let's copy this and put one below it. And here, I'm going to use actually a text box, not a label. And I'll tell it to get the data from the getPage function, because we have it. That's the same function we've defined over here. Let's run this. And we can see that the page works. Cool. So we've seen two ways of updating data. We can either set the text in the constructor and then it's once. We can set the text every time we print and then it will change according to the printout. Or we can bind it to an expression and it will again reevaluate any times that we print. Okay, cool. Now we have an article on our website about printing page out of pages. So while we're here, let's go ahead and grab that and see if we can actually use it here to get a better experience. Print total pages number on every page. Let's do that. So there's an article here that says things that I've written years ago. So I can take this and then I can use it somewhere in my text. Cool. So let's do that. Total pages placeholder token. So I'm going to go to my print order. No, hey, you know what? Let's get back to that later. I want to do something else before that. So circling back on everything, we've seen that we can create a layout that is independent of a controller and put whatever we want to put over here. We've seen how we create a layout very easily and how we initialize it and how we can use it just like in the migrated code. Now let's take it just one step further. Let's say that all of my reports have a standard header and standard footer. So there's really no point in me doing this every time, right? Defining the IO again. You know, all of this is really consistent in my code and it's always the same. So no problem, I can create my own printer writer. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just place it here, but you can really place it anywhere you want. New item, just a class, my printer writer. Okay, and my printer writer will inherit from env a printing printer writer. And here in the constructor, I can say things like, you know what, I want the preview to be default true. And I want the page header to be our cool page headers that we've just written. So let's use standard page header. And the printer is this, and the title, let's force a title in the parameter here. So instead, report title. Okay? And of course, page header. So I've defined my own printer, and that opens up things to be even easier. Like when I write a report, okay, I don't need to set all of these things to get that report to do what I want it to do. I can simply say here, use my printer writer. And I can give it the title, because it requires a title. And that's it. All of this code just goes away. And my code becomes super simple and reusable, because by using a printer that is already built in with a header, I'm going to get all that functionality for free. Okay, so if I'll go and print our order, okay, we get the page functionality and we get the title, and everything just works. And I can do the same also for the other report. I can go to the print orders. Okay, and again, simplify it. Use my printer writer. Just get the title. And pretty much delete anything else because I don't want it. And that report will also use my standard printer writer with the page header. Cool, now once we've done that, we can actually take this even further, because we can continue adding functionality to our page header and have our entire report benefit from it. And we can control it via parameters that we send to it, either like this or as properties, and then read these properties. We can do all of that. Cool. So, yeah, we can actually even say that it will take the title from the name of the IO if you want to. We can play around. We can say here that it will send whatever. We can do whatever we want. But for now, let's go ahead and add the page header functionality. The pages out of pages. So let's go here. We see that we have the total placeholder token. So let's add that over here. Okay. And in our report, in the page header, we can say here that when we'll set it to the text, we'll set it plus of and whatever that string was. Let's copy it from there because I'm too lazy to remember. Okay. So now when we will print our report, we'll get page out of pages on every page. And any report that will use these printers that we've created will be able to get page out of pages and header and whatever else we want to put here and get a consistent experience. Okay? And while we're talking about it, you can also take parts of the report and standardize them. Okay? For example, you can create a standard customer header for a report. Not a problem. I'll just add a new template report layout. Let's call it standard order header. Okay. Again, we'll fix the inheritance and view the designer. And remember, we can control the parameters that we are getting in. So we can say, hey, you know what? Takes models, orders. Perfect. Hey, I love it that Visual Studio takes that. And I can do that now. And on my UI, I can now take my column wizard, which I thought I should be able to take at this point. Let's drop in a text box. No, yeah, love those Visual Studio bugs. Let's close and reopen. Unfortunately, that's beyond our control. Visual Studio has all sorts of weird caches where sometimes it gets stuck with things that it needs to remember. Okay, so we have our standard order header, and we want to use it. Remember, it receives the order as a parameter, and we've set it over here. So let's go over there and use it. I'm going to go and grab a label, put it here, say standard order header. And on it, next to it, I'm gonna place a resize. Next to it, I'm gonna place a text box. And I'm gonna get the data from orders, order ID. And once I have that ready, I can go to my print order. And wherever I'm printing the order title, I can say new printing standard page header, standard printing standard order header. You are here, you are here. Northwind orders, I see. I've put it in orders and not in printing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to send it the orders for my code, body, right to IO. So let's see that it works. And we have our standard ordered header. And then that's how we can build reusable segments of a report and use them anywhere we want. Now remember, doing a new like this and writing it can be expensive. So if you are printing 10,000 orders, it makes sense to save it somewhere. So I can say here, standard order header, and say over here, if standard order header is null. No, we can actually keep it there and just set it on the constructor, which is probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to take it up to the layout, put it over here, and set it there. So if I need to use it more than once, I'll do this. I'll just build it in the constructor and put it there. And then when I print, instead of doing new every time, I'll just say standard on the header and print it. And that way, the new will only get executed once in my program and not every time. So we print our orders and it prints our standard order header. Perfect. So to recap everything that we've done here, we can add a layout simply by right-clicking and adding one with a type. We've seen that the default template that I use in this version has a bug in it where it inherits from theme and not shared theme, and that's why we've got the error. We've seen that if you want to use stuff from our controller, we need to set the controller as a parameter and then use it in our tasks. We've seen that we can define it in a new, just like I've done over here, with our standard new, like this, which is great, and that's the way you should write most of your code. Okay. Or we can use this in case we only want to create it on the first time that it's being used. Great. And also seen how we can create reusable components such as the standard page header. And we've created even our own printer that has this page header defined to it by default. And we've used here total pages and everything we wanted to do there, which is kind of fun. And we've also seen how we can create reusable component sections, parts of a report, so that we can then have them only be dependent on the data that we need and not the controller, and then we can use them across controllers. That's it. Thank you for your patience. I hope you had fun and I hope you find this useful, and see you in the next video.